Hello everyone and welcome back to the Mania 4Key 2016 World Cup. My name is Z-Trat and we are joined with Juan Crystal and Slane today. We will be going over our final match for the semifinals this week in just a little bit. But before we do that, we're going to have a Mappool Showcase for you all. And we're going to be getting that in just a little bit. Before we do that, we can go ahead and talk about the matches we've seen so far today. Who would like to start that off for us?
I'm fine with starting. I think we should talk a bit about the maps of yesterday because today we only had one match.
Very much so. Yeah, we can go ahead and touch base on what we saw yesterday. And for those that might have missed the match earlier this morning, we could talk about that as well. Although there won't be too much to talk about as it was a very clean sweep.
Yep, and as you could imagine, Japan was the team winning for the match of today that we had some hours ago. Someone was expecting them to win, that was myself. But, we cannot say that Chile is a bad team at all. Like, they managed to get to this far in a really good way, even though they had their issues so far. They almost got knocked out on group stages, but still managing to make it this far. It's always good to point out that kind of stuff. This whole weekend though, we had already 5 teams eliminated of the tournament and only one more is remaining, and that will be between the next match that we will have, which is Brazil and Canada. The loser of that match will be knocked out of the tournament. So now that we have around 10 minutes before we start with the Mappool Showcase, we can use those 10 minutes to talk about a bit the matches for yesterday. As C-Trot mentioned it, would you mind starting with the winners bracket encounters?
I would, and then all of a sudden, I can't get into the...
Alright.
What? Okay.
I can't get into the document.
Oh,
Wrecked.
That's unfortunate.
That is
don't
wrecked.
don't worry. I have a little bit of a memory of those matches. Those were South Korean friends and UK
Straight
against
goldfish.
US, right?
Yes.
And
So,
friends,
go for it,
unfortunately. Friends, unfortunately, and I'm very saddened to be forced to say that to you, but lost against South Korea by a clean sweep 6-0. It was it's like you have a match against South Korea. It's bad.
yeah, fighting one of the strongest, if not the strongest tournament. Oh, I got that thing all the time. The strongest team in the tournament, which is South Korea.
Yes.
France couldn't keep up at this level of difficulty against them. Maybe a little bit earlier with their accuracy, they might have pulled out a stronger fight, maybe taking a bit of points on that matchup. But
At
this
one of
case,
the tournaments, they were just simply too strong.
yeah, South Korea is just too strong. But in the other hand, for the other winner brackets encounter that we had, was between the United States and the United Kingdom, and that match was actually
awesome.
really intense. Yeah, United States without the star player, without Halogen, managed to take down 6-4 anyways the United Kingdom.
Without their
really
star
good
players either.
performance. Yeah, UK didn't have one of their star players as well, which was Jeep Jab Job. And at the end, Pop Gadget and Trouble managed to get really strong performance. Same for Peeper actually in the United Kingdom. That surprised me a lot. Managed to take 4 points against US is no joke.
Yeah, unfortunately, the United States knew which map to choose properly and scored two breaks on United Kingdom as well, which made them win 6-4.
Yeah, and that would be all of the winner bracket encounters that we went over. I do remember some of the loser bracket encounters, but they aren't as exciting. There was one loser bracket encounter that I'd like to bring up right away, which was Canada versus Indonesia.
Oh, this one.
And that one went back and forth for quite some time, but Canada did manage to get a few break points and take that victory 6-4, and that is why they have their chance at Brazil today. So that being said, Indonesia gave it their best, but they were not able to win. Another one of our loser bracket encounters that went pretty well was Chile versus Poland. This was another one that went 6-3 in favor of Chile. Poland really wasn't giving it their best, I felt, but Chile definitely was performing very high. Unfortunately, though, With our match this morning, Chile versus Japan, they were unable to topple Japan, and they went ahead and got eliminated, unfortunately. They did get a good effort, and hopefully we'll see them again next year, but that is just the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, and while Japan, on paper, it was their second match. It is the only one they played this weekend because the first one against Argentina was a win by default. Fortunately, Argentina didn't manage to bring 3 players to the game.
Yeah, that was kind of a misfortune over there. And the same thing didn't happen on the Brazil against Singapore match, which is the last one remaining that we had this weekend. In that case, Brazil legit clean sweep the Singaporean team, which was I couldn't see that much, but I was looking at the results, and some of the maps were actually pretty close. So that's something that Canada should look for to pick against Brazil. Also, another thing that I wanted to mention about this previous match is if you have the time to check the VODs, please watch the match between Canada and Indonesia. The last map, Egoism, was absolutely incredible. That's a really good example of tournament nerves and how good a match can be in just a matter of seconds. How can turn the table into another thing. Like, I don't know. It's just amazing. You have to watch it. Same goes for the US against United Kingdom. That was an amazing match. If you have the time, be sure to check that video.
I mean, you know, when in less than 20 seconds you get 200,000 points difference between the two teams, all in one go, it was like, what happened? What did just happen?
Yep. When not even the players know how they won, you know that was a crazy map.
Oh yeah, pretty much.
And not only that, before we actually enter into the Mappool Showcase, which should be in around 5 minutes, I will remember you guys. 7 teams are still in the tournament. But actually, yeah, there are 7. And you can still purchase your banners on the All Store for them, supporting them. Don't be afraid of purchasing one if you want to support them. Like, you don't even have to purchase the ones that's still in the tournament, but if you pick up the one who you think is going to win and that actually wins, your banner will stick for a little bit longer.
Yeah, 2 to 3 weeks, and showing your acumen and, you know, your skills at determining which team is the most likely to win.
And now we are waiting for Citra to say the United States, but for some reason he's not doing it.
Well, I don't want to be on the bias side there.
Oh, you know, you don't want to.
You never did that, man. I mean,
no, never.
Saying that.
Yeah.
I mean, if I only could play, you know, audio clips from yesterday.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a really great match, though. Another thing we could touch on before we get into the map pool for next week, we can kind of just go over what we saw played the most here for the map and for this map pool. And it looks like there is a tie. We received. Oh no, yeah, there's a little bit of a tie.
Yeah.
The only map. There's 2 maps that were played completely fully to this point at the moment, which is Egoism, Love Love Whistle, and
that's it.
Is it? Those are the only 2 sticks?
Yeah,
You're all right.
Then you have the Princess Instant All Night Horai Live, which has been taken 5 times.
Mm-hmm. And
to mention that another map that is 100% appearance is Apparition and Kamui. Like, every single time that Apparition was not banned, it was selected, and same thing goes for Kamui.
Yeah, the only thing we have not seen actually is our Interstellar Retribution. We have not seen that played at all. There has not been a single tiebreaker this semifinals round. That might be subject to change though with our last match here. Everything is up in the air on that. But that being said, guys, that's a little bit of a recap on what we've done so far for the semifinals weekend. We should be going into the finals Mappool Showcase in just a moment.
And just to say, the final Mappool Showcase will be for the 2 next weeks, for the whole final round. So
week 1 and week 2. So this is the last Mappool of the tournament, and I hope you enjoy, guys, because we are about to start with it.
Hello and welcome back to the Mania World Cup 4-Key 2016. My name is Ztron and today we'll be going over the final Mappool Showcase. This is going to be for the finals, and remember, finals week 1 and 2 are the same map pool. That being said, let's get right into this with our first no-mod pick, Tadish Image Material. This is a stamina chart filled with 260 BPM dense jump streams and hand streams. The density of the chart isn't super difficult, but the patterning as a whole is quite difficult to the heavy usage of one-handed trills. The first half starts off relatively tame, having lighter but still dense jump streams with notable break sections. After a long break, however, the chart is a non-stop barrage of dense jump streams and hand streams for 2 minutes. If that's not enough, you also have to deal with the non-straightforward 1/6 streams in the beginning of the log chord stream first. This chart is quite low risk though due to the low variance in the scores for this chart, but it's still a difficult pick, but not the hardest. And with our second no-mod pick, we have Voyage 1970. This is a reading-based long note chart. The patterns in this are extremely uncomfortable, mainly due to the long combination of reading required and most of the chords being split chords. While most of the chart does get easier with practice, the difficulty of this chart is not constant. There's an inverse jump stream section in particular that is exceptionally hard to read through, and will most likely make or break a match due to the amount of damage a player can take. The chart also contains a couple of 1/8 bursts throughout the chart, which are difficult to read through, but can be comboed well regardless. The saving grace of this map is that the chart primarily tests reading ability. Most of the releases in this chart are relatively easy due to the low OD. This could be a ban due to the amount of reading difficulty present in this chart though. And for our third pick, we have Hellfire, a speed-based jack pick, testing fast chord glut ability. This chart clocks in at 175 beats per minute. As the description entails, this chart contains very short but very fast chord jacks, but the patterning is mostly lenient due to the lack of anchors in this chart. At least, the ones that are embedded in the streams have easy patterning. At least, most of them do. Well, this chart also contains some very sophisticated chord gluts which happen in more rapid succession than the ones in the streams, which might cause players to overexert and end up running out of stamina much quicker than they would anticipate, especially since the ending is a touch harder than the rest of the chart. The ending of the chart contains chord gluts riddled with non-straightforward 1/8 bursts at the end, some of which are very easy to get early misses on. Despite this is one of the easier charts in the pool, due to its length and patterning leniency. We'll probably see this one quite a bit. And our fourth pick for the No-Mod pool is Fleshgod Apocalypse, The Violation. You really can't have a Mania World Cup Finals map pool without a Fleshgod Apocalypse chart. Sorry. That being said, 270 BPM jump streams of varied density, mainly jump streams with doubles on every 1/1. There are also some occasions where this chart is denser, however, such as the intro and the second half of each chorus. Patterns are generally very smooth to hit, though they are not always super straightforward. There are occasional 3-note anchors, one-hand mini trills, and column-based jump streams, but they are infrequent. Arguably the easier chart in the pool due to its patterning, this is still a very hard chart for those players with poor stamina, regardless, and it will most certainly tire you out, so it's advised to pick this later rather than earlier.
Let's go to the with me, like a mark on your butt.
And coming along with our fifth no mod pick, we have Morningklut 2012. This chart is entirely made of long notes. 75% of this chart is long notes, most of which are mini long notes that can be treated as normal notes, though the timing on it could be a bit variable because you still have to release the long note. Patterns will alternate between being straightforward and hard to time to longer long note releases. The chart also contains a decent amount of one-hand trills as well, which could trip up players and cause bad judgment rushes. The chart as a whole is also very control-based. If you slip once, you slip up a decent chunk of the chart. There's very little room for error in this chart. It also contains a very long note heavy 1/6 jump stream at the end, which is very hard to read through. Arguably one of the hardest parts of the chart. However, it can be worked on by working on that chart in isolation. This is actually the easiest long note chart of the no mod map pool, so players are expected to be able to perform very well for long notes at this level. Coming up with our 6th no-mod pick, we have Sun Valley. This is a speed pick, testing very fast light jump stream ability. The chart contains 2 long 350 BPM light jump streams with non-straightforward but easy patterning. The streams are spaced apart very leniently, so stamina is not tested very heavily here. However, charts like these are extremely hard to read through due to its speed plus the patterning, and players will end up getting lost trying to read through the streams, taking massive damage to their accuracy in the process. The chart also contains a 1/12 wall at the end of the second stream that can be jump trilled, but not entirely. This is low risk for players who are fast enough, but there are not many players in some of the losers bracket teams that are fast enough to hit throughout with issue. This could be a common counterban against very fast teams like Brazil or the United States or even the United Kingdom. Hopefully we'll get to see it quite a bit. And with our 7th no-mod pick, we have T-Pazolite vs Rough Sketch Readymade Love, an unsight readable SV chart, though not entirely unsight readable. Most of the SVs in this chart create notable visual effects, but it doesn't necessarily affect timing too much if you are able to read the chart as intended, which is reading the notes in groups rather than individually. This could be a major problem with players that have higher speed mods, say above 30, since the spacing between notes is much more significant. Players with lower speed mods, lower than 24, will have quite the opposite effect. The chart is downright unsight readable in certain sections, simply because the player does not have enough time to decipher what is going on, such as the bass kick section at the end. Sight mesmerization is needed, but it is minor time investment. Fortunately, this chart requires absolutely no effort speed-wise for any of the players who have reached this far. This potentially could be a ban, but again, the time investment needed for this chart is considerably lower than most SV charts with this intensity. It's mainly about finding the right players who can read the notes in chunks properly. And with our 8th no-mod pick, we have the Fastest Crash, one of the hardest charts in the map pool speed-wise, with little competition. This is a speed chart complemented with very difficulty pattern and jack transitions. The chart is predominantly made out of 1/6 bursts at 210 BPM, difficulty ranging from easy to noticeably difficult. But there are also occasional jack sections that are strung in, mostly mini jacks and 3-note jacks. The transition into them is quite difficult and could cause bad judgment rushes. The chart also has a great note section, which could trip players up. The hardest part of the chart is when the 1/6 bursts are also complemented with the 1/8 bursts after the grace note section. The patterning does not let up, and is also very difficult to read, which in turn makes it difficult to even combo properly. Fortunately, that section only has sparse 1/8 bursts, but the effects of the 1/8 bursts are still present regardless. This is going to be a common ban, but players will also have to be able to complement in many other sections of the game that they don't want to regret banning this one too much. Good luck avoiding your Fastest Crash. And with our 9th no-mod pick, we have Southern Waters Assault 8-bit. This is a speed jack-based long note chart. The difficulty of this chart is heavily contingent on your ability to read the chart. The jumps and jack streams aren't too difficult except for the ending solo, but that doesn't matter if you cannot read this chart. Depending on how well you can read, either through gaps or note heads, you might find Voyage 1970 easier to read than this chart. The releases in this chart are almost impossible to focus on, due to the amount of things going on in the chart. Fortunately, the long note releases in this are not too difficult compared to Voyage 1970, but players will bleed out lots of 200s regardless. The ending has more complicated patterning with more 1/4 introduced, which might get too overwhelming for many of the players that aren't as well with the long note speed hybrids like this. For teams who are oriented to speed, this is the hardest map in the map pool. This will be a common ban due to its difficulty and potentially the length, since the chart has harder consistent difficulty already. And for our final no-mod pick, we have Leaf Eye. This is also an unsight readable SV chart, but this one requires noticeably more time investment due to the presence of the stops. Not even including the SVs, this chart is still noticeably cutthroat. Some of the transitions out of the 1/8 burst create mini jacks or flams, which could trip up players on occasion. Some of the core gluts in the chart are also at 280 BPM, which isn't entirely difficult per se, but is still also complemented with very heavy, non-straightforward layering as well. Fortunately, not all of the SVs are entirely difficult. The really hard SVs include the slowdown right before the first 280 BPM section, which could be learnt, and the stops 75% into the chart. The stops are not constant. There's one stop that's 3 beats long, and it's hard to predict unless you've played it a lot. And the core gluts in between stops are very abrupt, and some sections end up being noticeably difficult, even more so considered that the core gluts are already 280 BPM as it is. If a team leaves this unbanned, practice on this chart is absolutely required. Players will take too much damage from the stops otherwise, and they could actually fail and not be able to recover due to the high HP drain of 9.3. And for our first free mod pick, we have T-Pazolite with Samaru, Barisan. And this is primarily a Jack-based chart, complemented with streams. And this chart is very heavily layered generally, but it only runs at 160 BPM, and the Jackie patterns in the first half are also not very hard for its density. There are some 1/8 bursts that can be hard to time with their rolling nature, but they're infrequent. After the first set of 1/8 bursts and the break afterwards, the Jack gets harder pattern-wise, which could cause early misses. At the very end of the chart, the 1/8 bursts are strung into the Jackie streams, making it potentially and additionally difficult to time. Flashlight Harrock is quite viable here. Most of the chart should be easy to time since they're Jacks and it's relatively slow. And the chart is also mainly consistent. This could be a counterband for that reason as well, but unlikely. And for our second free mod pick, we have Freedom Dive. Yeah, this song again, guys. Now, I'll go ahead and explain this, but as you guys know, it's Freedom Dive. Come on. This chart has jump streams, hand streams, a feast. Albeit it's arguably leisurely 222 BPM. The chart does start off with a light hand stream and occasional split jump trail sections, but nothing particularly daunting. The scary part is the length of these sections. There are two major streams in this chart, one that's about a minute long and the other one being close to 2.5 minutes long. Given the distance isn't consistent, but they are dense enough to keep players on their feet throughout. Due to the nature of this chart, the most errors in this chart are badge judgment, 200 or worse rushes, so any error in this chart will be very punishing. The chart will also get noticeably denser during the last stretch of the song, introducing denser hand stream sections. As frightening as it sounds, this is arguably easiest map in the map pool overall due to its relatively low tempo. Along with the consistent nature, Flashlight and Hard Rock is a very viable pick if you can decipher its density. Due to the relatively low difficulty, this can also be used as a counterban against weaker teams to corner them or edge out teams who are more proficient at accuracy than speed. That being said, welcome back Freedom Dive. And for our third free mod pick, we have Mirage, a long note release-based chart with noticeably tricky rhythms and long note patterning, which make it uncomfortable to release properly. Despite how it looks, most of the chart is really easy to read due to its constant jump stream nature, or there is a lot of empty space involved in this chart. The bulk of difficulty comes from the jump stream long note sections. Add on to the occasional hard patterning like the long notes on 3/4, 25% in, and the very irregular long note lengths at 80% into the chart, and it makes for a chart that's hard to read at multiple points, making timing very difficult, which is crucial for Freemod songs. There is a slowdown with a complex patterning section as well, which could trip players up. The section could be easily learnt, however. It's mainly about getting the timing down. This is a possible fan, but Voyage 1970 and Southern Waters are harder overall and more high risk. And our last free mod pick, we have Dreamless Wanderer. This is a speed pick, albeit not even close to the most straightforward. The chart is mainly filled with very fast bursts, the harder bursts being the ones that are chained together. The patterns alternate from not cheatable to quite cheatable. The chart is also particularly control-based. Some of the transitions force you to stop immediately after doing a very fast pattern, otherwise you'll get early misses. If you miss hit through certain bursts, which is very viable given the sporadic nature, you will also end up with early miss rushes. This is one of the charts you will be an absolute nightmare to score on, mainly due to the nature of the chart. You can manipulate through most of the bursts with acceptable accuracy, but players who wish to have high accuracy or higher scores will have to strain harder. This is likely going to be a popular chart, mainly due to its speedy nature and popularity, but this is also a notably risky pick for teams who are weak at control and accuracy. This one is most likely unviable to play on Flashlight, mainly due to the very broken erratic nature of the chart. Ones who do will be very rewarded, but the amount of people who possess the ability are next to none. This map has the Shoegazer seal of approval, by the way, and we hope to see this quite a bit. And what you've all been waiting for, the tiebreaker for the finals map pool. This one is from Camellia, I Can Fly in the Universe. This chart actually tests almost everything, ranging from jacking corglets, jacking stamina, and occasional bursts of speed, most difficult configurations of long note patterns in all types of SV, and so on. However, the bulk of the difficulty comes from the long notes and SVs, the slowdowns and stutters. For players at this level, let's break down the chart. The first hard part of the chart is the first bridge, 10% into the chart. The chart enters an extreme slowdown, which is fine if you're an Oriole player, but you'd have to have massive issues if you were a visual player. Fortunately, the patterns in this are just trills, so it's just getting the timing down, and you should be fine. Slowdowns like these are very much present in the chart, some slowdowns even going all the way down to 0.3x. Most of the slowdowns do have easy patterning, but these are extreme SVs nonetheless. Then you enter a stutter SV section, which is very noticeable, but the saving grace here is that the patterning is very straightforward. There's a second stutter section 2/3 into the chart with harder patterning and more intensive stuttering, and afterwards you enter a jack heavy section with 90% of your normal speed. There are also 1/8 bursts in the chart, but these chordlets and bursts shouldn't faze many of the players who have reached this far. Most of these chord streams are definitely dense, but most of them are very lenient with the patterning. The first hard inverse long note section happens halfway into the chart. If you get lost once in these long notes, you'll get lost in them for quite some time, taking a massive hit to your accuracy. There's also a couple of sections in here that have harder patterning with the long notes, but the hardest one is the one with the most notable distance is the long note section at the end. Regardless of the insanity that is in this chart, it's a beautiful microcosm of finals map pool. A chart testing most skills, some skills to the extreme even. We hope that this could be a display of what some of the best Mania players can do. Best luck to all the contestants left in the tournament, because you'll need it after this one. With that being said, that is all for the finals Mappool Showcase. We hope you enjoyed checking out the maps for next week. Don't go anywhere though, as we will continue to talk about the matches that happened today, right after this. All right, and we're back, guys. Welcome back, and we'll be getting right under the way. We hope you enjoyed that Mappool Showcase, as it's one of the crazier ones we have released. That being said, guys, our next match is almost right underway. 5 minutes remaining for Brazil versus Canada. This thing is going down. We will hopefully see a tiebreaker today. It's the last chance for us to see Interstellar Retribution being played. That being said, we do have everyone from Brazil logged in here. Canada is slowly getting ready. We will be getting underway in just a moment. Definitely hype up the teams you want to see win this, guys, as Brazil and Canada are going head-to-head with this one. Remember, you can still pick up banners at the Oath store to support your favorite team. Proceeds go towards the tournament prize pool. And remember, if you pick the winning team, you will keep that banner for 3 weeks longer than anyone else, letting everyone know that you supported the winning team.